Okay, hello, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar, Enhancing Cybersecurity Phishing Awareness as part of the IT strategy for vCIOs. I'm Delta Holtby, and I'll be moderating today's session. We are fortunate to have two experts with us, Stuart Holtby from GetInSync and Larry Meador from INFIMA. Today, we will dive into how to integrate security awareness into your IT planning and protect your critical business applications. Stuart and Larry will also share strategies on building a security conscious culture that aligns with your business goals and strengthens your cybersecurity posture. Feel free to post your questions in the comments as we go along, and we will address them at the end when we open up the floor for the Q&A. Thanks again for joining, and we're ready to get started.
Okay, welcome, Larry. I'm Stuart, and for those who are tracking, that must mean you're Larry.
So I hope so.
But yeah, that's great. Just wanted, before we get into this webinar, and first off, thanks for joining us here. But Larry, I want to talk about the Pitch It program, and that's how we met. And I think if for most folks, they might have heard of it, but if they haven't, the Pitch It program is a Shark Tank competition. And I believe there was 25 of us in this year's contest, if you want to call it that. And it's really a platform that's put on by ConnectWise that allows the up-and-comers, there was, like I say, 25 or so of us, but to introduce new technologies to MSPs and technology service providers. So that's how we met. I don't know if you wanted to comment on how you're feeling about Pitch It and how it went this year for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But first and foremost, thanks to you and Delta for reaching out and setting this thing up. I think this is going to be fun. We were joking a few minutes ago that this is a fireside chat, but you guys are up in Canada where you might have a nice cozy fire, but I'm down in Texas and it's almost 90 degrees. So I don't have a fire going today.
Yeah,
but
no fire
no,
for you.
no fire for me. I just got to go outside and it's pretty toasty out there. But yeah, no, in FEMA, we've been and are great partners with ConnectWise. We're part of the event marketplace, all of that good stuff in the event program. And then, yeah, we took part in the Pitch It thing this summer, which I've actually done Pitch It before with a previous company when I was with DataStream, and had a good time doing it then and really built some great relationships with some of the companies last year. And obviously, as a result of us doing this, you and I met during the Pitch It program, and I think we pitched against each other. We also did a webinar or whatever you want to call it together, and here we are doing it again. So it's always great to make new friends like you guys, and especially when you've got such a great platform. We've got a great platform, and it just made sense for us to put this together. And one quick thing, if you see me rejoin, my computer's giving me all kinds of problems here, so I'm having to do this from my phone, but hopefully that's why you've got a weird video angle on me. But hopefully I can get my computer to cooperate. It's in the middle of rebooting at the moment, and I'm going to try to come in on the computer. But so sure. Anywho, that's how we know each other. And again, I'm happy to be here.
That's great. Thanks for joining. Yeah, no, you mentioned the Pitch It. I mentioned that it was for up and coming. I don't think INFIMA is up and coming. You guys have been around for a while. But having said that, it was a great way to get introduced to your company and your business. Anyway, so today's discussion really is going to be that synergy between cybersecurity training, I guess you would call it, or awareness, and strategic IT planning. Those, just the importance of how we're addressing the security vulnerabilities and just really enhancing that whole overall IT effectiveness. So we'll start off with this little factoid here. Each day, an estimated 3.4 billion phishing emails are sent globally. That is astounding, right? So if you break that down, that would be 2.3 million emails sent every minute, right? Highlighting the sheer scale of this. And in there, of course, in this blizzard of email that are going out, there's lots of little bombs, right? Yep. By the time we've covered this slide, let's say it takes about a minute, there'll be 2.36 million phishing emails that have already been sent. It's crazy, right? This is just, is this what you're seeing out there?
It's hard to imagine, but yeah, it's the truth. It is the absolute truth. And Now you can understand, I don't care whose report you open up. Everybody has, I've seen numbers, 85% of ransomware attacks come through a phishing email. I've seen 90%, I've seen 94%. Regardless of whose report you're looking at, this is a very serious problem. It only takes one click from
One
one
click.
user
That's right.
that
Yeah.
could bring an entire company down. When you hear people talk about this, and we stress this as well, an MSP has to take a multi-layered approach in their security posture. I don't care. You've got tools, you've got technologies, you've got some of the best stuff out there, but none of it is foolproof because every MSP has the same common weakest link, and that is you and me. It's the human. And it's crazy because these bad threat actors they have become experts at social engineering, and they know
Exactly.
how to push our buttons with some of these phishing attacks. And they've gotten really good at it. I don't know if you remember back in the day, it was easy to spot a phishing email simply because there was so many misspelled words.
Right.
It was just, come on, who's going to fall for this stuff? But now,
Now.
in the past couple of years, man, it has gotten incredibly sophisticated. They're really, yes,
It's impossible, like it sometimes to distinguish the real one from the phony one. Like it really
totally.
is difficult. But like you said, sadly, they only have to work once, right? We have 2.36 million come in a minute, sort of thing, 40,000 every second. And so, it's just they're playing the odds, right? And so for those that don't know, and I guess you'd have to be living under a rock, phishing means it's not fishing. It's what it starts with a P. What we're talking about here is that those insidious emails that are sent pretending that they're a bank and they want you to click on a link and it takes you somewhere you're not supposed to be going. And then, of course, that opens you up to getting hacked. So I just want to make sure that for those people, what the heck are they talking about phishing? But having said that, we've become so accustomed to this overwhelming flood of emails, right? Like it's just so emails, spam, all of the stuff, the marketing stuff. I think they said 50% of all emails are trying to sell you something. So we often fall victim to this because there's just so much of it. The sheer volume makes it really challenging, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's setting up what we're going to talk about. And really the one thing that I'm coming from is that vCIO, kind of that fractional virtual CIO field that MSPs provide that astute technology leadership to management, and particularly in businesses that need that kind of guidance and leadership. And so what we're hoping to do is we're going to bust some myths in this presentation, but really talk about how you have to integrate the strategy. And Larry, you mentioned it, you have to have that holistic approach to cyber. And that's really talking about some of the technologies and tools that you mentioned, but also there's this now with AI, you can get some of these smarter tools to do some filtering, look for, like you said, for the dummy ones that are pretty obvious. We've always talked about MFA, which is it's texting you something to your phone so that when you go to log in, that's that something like a password and something you have, right? Like a card or your phone code. And then, of course, this whole concept of zero trust models, which is really the idea is zero trust is everything looks like a threat. But if you're getting 3 billion of them a day, it's pretty tough to weed through all of those. But it's just taking that view that you don't trust anything. But then what we're really focused on today is the automated security awareness training. Now, does that kind of cover it when you're vCIO talking about some of the strategy for this bombardment of email?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was going to ask this. I think oftentimes we all jump into this and throw all these acronyms out and everything and don't really stop to think that maybe somebody's listening and they don't know exactly what a vCIO is or a
Good call.
vCISO. So maybe explain real quick for the audience out there, if there's anybody that might not know exactly what responsibilities a VCIO might have and how a fractional one differs from maybe a full-time employee
Virtual,
that has that
yeah,
job. Yeah.
full.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great. It's a good pickups. Is typically it is an acronym for Chief Information Officer,
Mhm.
and that of course typically the larger organizations will have them as an employee. And CIO, like Chief and Officer. So now you're an officer of the corporation, and typically you serve on the executive. So they have duties really looking internally to an organization, helping that organization with their processes, their line of sight, trying to a relationship and align your technical strategy with your business strategy and
Yep.
develop that whole roadmap, right? But a lot of organizations can't afford a full-time CIO, but they still need them. The need doesn't change on the size of your organizations. MSPs, managed service providers, provide this as a service, and it's that, as like I said, that trusted advisor that can help and stand in on a virtual, which means that they're not really on site, but they're virtually there. They help with those strategic decisions. And then the fractional is the same thing. It's just that person usually could be on site, has more of a presence, is more involved in the day-to-day rigor of
Mhm.
running an IT shop and that kind of thing. So there's a somewhat, but marginally different. Is that your understanding, Larry? If you wanted to add anything to that?
No, I think you're spot on, totally spot on with all of that. And I think one of the challenges that MSPs have, like with their, small to mid-sized business customers, and I hear this all the time when I talk to them, is, and I do think we're at a turning point to where I think more businesses are starting to understand what I'm about to say, but there's still a lot of businesses out there that just look at technology and cybersecurity and vCIO, vCISO, different things like that. They still look at that as a pain and it's an expense. They
Correct.
don't always look at it as they should, which is really technology underpins everything you do. If you didn't have technology, many of you wouldn't be, or many of these small businesses wouldn't exist. So they've got to
Exactly.
start looking at the MSP and technology and cybersecurity protection and everything like that. They've really got to start looking at it as a business enabler rather than just a pain in the butt that we got to have. We got to have these computers. We got to have a network. It just
Mhm.
costs us money. We always got to replace stuff. They look at it as an expense. But like I said, just I've been in this channel for a long time, 20, almost 23 years. And I do hear more and more over the past 2, 3, 4 years of businesses starting to look at this a lot more like they should, which is technology is enabling us
An
across
enabler.
all facets of the company in order to
Exactly.
run the company, do things efficiently, different things like that. For those MSPs that haven't quite stuck their foot in the water of being a VC or the virtual CIO, it's time. It's time because that's going to help you become
100%.
that trusted advisor to the small to medium sized business. And once you become that trusted advisor, it's real easy to get over some of these arguments of, oh, I don't need new computers. I don't need to do some of these things. Yeah.
Right.
If you're the VC or VCIO, you're that trusted advisor, they're going to listen to you a lot more. At least
Well,
that's what I'm hearing.
exactly. And it's about relationships, right? It's about building that relationship
Yep.
and helping the organization. Really, you're taking a step if you will, to their business, and you're got to look through the lens of helping that business grow. And what I mean by that is you're trying to increase the top line. I said earlier, like a CIO is always looking at how the processes and IT can work together. So the vCIO is the same way, right? Like, what are my line of business applications, those kind of things. And of course, the idea is I'm going to increase my revenue, my top line. I'm going to increase the bottom line, which is meaning reduce expense, which you can automate things. That's going to help. And then overall risk. So those are really the three tenets of what we say a vCIO, a CIO, or fractional CIO should be really concerned with. And it's like, how do I connect technology into that? So building a strategy, and this is the segue, one of the things that often is missed is just how we do security awareness and just bringing
Mhm.
that to the people within the organization. So I think it's so critical as that vCIO, as as that advisor, technology leader, to be having those conversations with people, because back to the point, all you need is one click, right, Larry?
Yeah. All it takes one person, one click, and it can bring the entire company down. And it's, again, you've seen me at many of these events that we go to. Matter of fact, we're all getting ready to go to IT Nation and some of these other events coming up here
Yay.
real soon. But so we get to talk face to face with a lot of MSPs out there. And it's refreshing to see that most of the MSPs we talk with, they do have something in place for security awareness training. So they're at least acknowledging that they've got to take that multi-layer approach. Like I said earlier, I don't care whose tools and technology you have. There's some great stuff out there. I don't care how much you spend. If you're not taking that multi-level approach and educating the end user, you've got a major gap in your security posture. So it's refreshing that most of these MSPs that we talk with have some type of security awareness training in place. But what we also hear is that it takes many of these guys and gals a disproportionate amount of time to manage their security awareness training platform. We even had one of our partners come to us and say, I implemented another platform, not INFIMA, but another platform. And I felt like I had become basically a platform manager because I had to spend X number of hours each week just monitoring things, scheduling campaigns, making sure that the emails got delivered to the end users, tracking who was taking it, who wasn't taking it, sending reports out. And it shouldn't be that way.
Right. And that leads to inconsistencies too, right?
Yes,
if you're doing
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
And not only does it lead to inconsistencies, but that's a liability. Just imagine if your customer went out there and hired somebody and didn't tell you about it. So you didn't have security awareness training emails going out to that new employee, and they're the one that clicks on it. Guess what? You're going to be in trouble. You've got liability, even though it really wasn't your fault. And when I say you, I'm talking about the MSP.
Of course, yeah.
So, and the myth, you've got it here on the screen. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The myth is, traditional security training programs are manual, time-consuming, ineffective at consistently engaging users. Not just a myth. With other platforms, that's unfortunately true.
Right.
It absolutely is. But one of the things, we do quite a few things a little bit differently here at INFIMA. And our partners really, it's often when I tell people how our platform operates, the first thing that they react with is usually a little bit of skepticism. This sounds fantastic, but the proof is going to be in the pudding. I'm happy to say the pudding tastes pretty good because everything that we say we do, we actually do. On the screen here is just some of the tasks that you have to do with most security awareness training platforms. You got to take care of allow listing the domains. You've got to make sure the user synchronization is happening. You've got to schedule and send the training campaigns, or you've got to create the phishing attacks. You've got to make sure it gets delivered. There's so many things.
I'm starting to break out in a cold sweat.
Exactly. And our two co-founders, Joel Cahill and Kevin Geyer, they met in college. They were college roommates. They each went their separate way for 10, 12 years and then hooked back together and said, hey, I want to create a new company, but we want to do things differently. And that's how INFIMA came to be. All we do is security awareness training, phishing simulations. We do things just a little bit differently. Ours is really based on behavioral science. And in a nutshell, security awareness training is literally about changing a user's reflex when they get those phishing emails. Instead of clicking on the link, we're hoping to educate that user that, okay, maybe this looks like a legit email, but I know some tricks thanks to the training that I've had from INFIMA that help me figure out if this is phishing. There's some things I can do to verify the authenticity of this email or this sender. We teach them very specific tricks on things that they need to be watching out for, all of that good stuff. But going back to getting rid of all of these tasks that we see on the screen, all of that, if you're using INFIMA, is done in 3 clicks. It takes you 3 clicks to set your customer up.
It's no
And
joke.
after that, yeah, after I say you guys are a partner, you've seen it
Yeah, we're a
yourself.
partner. We got on board and it took maybe 15 minutes. It was like amazing. 3 clicks is like, yeah, it was like, that's it. That's all we got to do. And I know it's a great tagline, but it's also fact, living proof. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. That's why I said our pudding tastes good. The proof is always in the pudding.
that's right.
But yeah, it's 3 clicks to set your client up. And then after that, we truly, a lot of people pay lip service to this. We truly are a set it and forget it platform. You don't have to do anything. We take care of, we do user synchronization 4 times a day. And automatically, you can also do user sync whenever you want manually, but we take care of it 4 times a day. You don't have to worry about the allow listing of the domains. We use the Microsoft Graph API, and that helps us by direct injecting the email straight into the inbox so we don't get caught by phishing filters, different things like that. So it's amazing to hear from MSPs after they come on board with us. The testimonials we get are phenomenal, but they
It's
all
pretty slick.
typically, yeah, it typically just revolves around how much time we have saved them, which equates to saving money and
Money.
hopefully being able to redeploy the resources that were perhaps managing this platform into doing something else to where they're generating perhaps new revenue for the
That's
company.
That's a great segue because that's exactly true is that now I
Hmm.
can free up that time that I would run around and do all that manual stuff into more strategy stuff, right?
Bingo.
And this is really one of the things that from a CIO or GetInSync, which is our platform, our certified professionals, what they are really looking for is those business applications that are most critical, right? Yeah, you can probably do without Canva for a week or whatever, but it's those critical business applications that really have sensitive data that we want to make sure that we're protecting. And that goes into the strategy. And often what happens is that these smart guys, as much as we don't like them, they're pretty darn smart, these hackers. And so what we have to do is really be careful about those sensitive applications because that's what those people will target. I can hack your Canva and yeah, what do I get to do? I maybe cause a mess with your marketing materials. But if I was to hack your bank, it's a completely different conversation, right? Or for that matter, hack your customer accounts and stuff like that gets really serious. It's that targeted thing that we're seeing now where these cyber criminals are attacking. And so they're really trying to get into that. And so what we're
Yes.
saying is that you really have to have that data. And I just threw up a couple screens here. We're not going to get into the software, but how do you track what you need to know about your applications and your application profile? So we always talk to customers, God forbid, if there was something and you had a complete disaster, what would you install first? What's your disaster recovery? And that's where we look at criticality here. And our business score and technology score, they all kind of work interhand. This is, like I say, something that we would be negotiating or talking with the client, making sure that their applications and their DR plan was in place. But you
Hmm.
want to make sure you're having these conversations with those technology owners, the application owners. So when they
Hmm.
get phished, they're wise to it, right? So they're not going to let someone in. I know this kind of sounds silly, but let someone into their banking or whatever unknowingly, if you will. And
Yeah,
so,
no, I wanted to throw something in there too, if
yeah,
you don't mind
please,
me jumping
yeah,
in.
jump right in.
If you go back, oh, I don't even know, let's say 5 or 10 years, security awareness training was relegated to the C-suite people or the finance people because it was believed that if somebody was going to get hacked, it was going to be somebody like that because they had access to more valuable information than, say, an administrative assistant or a warehouse worker, somebody like that. But these days, everyone, I don't care if you're the CEO, the admin assistant, a salesperson, an accounting person, everyone needs to be enrolled in security awareness training because I hate to keep beating a dead horse, I guess is what we call it. All it takes is once. And it doesn't have to be somebody in the finance department. It can be anyone that clicks on a phishing link Now that bad threat actor has access to the entire network. They can get into data. And they do it secretly. Yeah, you hear all these horror stories that people have, or some of these bad threat actors have had access for months, if not years, before it went detected. So that's where a platform like yours really comes into play here and just helps point people to where the data lies, who's got access to it. So anyway, I just want to throw that in there because I
No.
still hear MSPs tell me that some of their customers are like, oh, the only people that need to do this is the accounting team. No, everybody in your organization needs to have security awareness training.
Yeah, and there's so many examples out there. Maybe it wasn't a phishing attack, but I think one of the most, famous recently in recent memory anyways was the casinos in Las Vegas, right? The
Yeah.
MGM, where someone gave them essentially what they needed to hack them.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they had some sort of special skill. I guess the special skill was they could convince some poor unexpecting admin to give them the password. So
Yeah.
that's always a challenge. But having said that, it's that awareness, right? Like ongoing awareness that, and so there's a number of myths, Larry, that we're, like I said at the opening, we're going to try to bust them. And so we're going to bust some myths here. You talked about busting the one myth about it being time consuming. I'm also a true believer. I thought it was time consuming, but after going through your platform, being onboarded, I'm like, woo, this is crazy good. So we busted that myth. And onboarding, talk to me a little bit about how do you onboard the actual client? I'm more of a partner, so I'm a little unique in that way, but maybe you can give us some insight into that.
First and foremost, INFIMA busts all these myths. Many of these myths, like I said, are true. Security training is time consuming if you're using another platform. Onboarding is complex and lengthy if you're on another platform. But with INFIMA, we've busted all that. We've made everything automated for you. Like when it comes to bringing your client on board, once again, that's where we go back to the 3 clicks. It takes 3 clicks of a mouse to onboard your client. And that is if you're using Office 365. We also sync with Gmail. So if you've got clients that are using Google Workspace, we work with that as well. And we've just built such a solid platform. And when we built this platform, we consulted with a lot of people that were in the space and said, what is it that an MSP needs? And that's how we built our platform, was just getting all of the input from MSPs, telling us what their pain points were. And many of the pain points were it's time consuming, it's complex to onboard a customer. So we tried to make it just as easy as possible. And I don't think you can get much easier than 3 clicks. It literally,
that's pretty easy.
it takes you about a minute to onboard your customer. And that phishing starts instantaneously. It starts going out. And one of the things that we do differently also when it comes to the phishing attempts, let's say you, me, and Delta all work for the same organization. With other platforms, they'll send these phishing emails out, but they'll send it to everybody at the same time, and it's the same email. So it makes it real easy for me to look over at Delta and say, hey, Delta, don't look at that email coming from John.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
the
phishing
fake
attempt,
one.
so don't do it.
That's
So Delta's not learned anything by me telling her. We
You're
fish
doing her
very,
homework for her.
yeah, exactly. We fish very randomly. So if all 3 of us worked for the same organization, we're not going to get the same email at the same time or even on the same day, because again, it just makes it too easy and people don't learn when things are that easy.
That's awesome.
Just wanted to bring that point up because
and that's important.
it's,
So when a vCIO is actually is putting together, we always suggest a 3-year plan, and it's evergreen. So it's a rolling 3-year plan. We should be looking at that, how security, of course, impacts the entire organization. You mentioned this already. Security only affects IT. No, afraid not. And so what part of that whole implementation, you have to sit down with the HR folks and say, look, this is the awareness training that we're going to be doing. It's going to be going out. Super easy to implement, super easy to track with INFIMA. And of course, just having that ongoing preparedness for employees. It's not a one-time thing. That's what I'm trying to say, is that there's the point on the screen here is that this is an ongoing, people obviously there'll be people quit and hire and whatnot. So that's an ongoing process. And once you've got it in
Yeah.
place in your strategy, you're up and going kind of thing.
It's like continuous education. If you think about it, the threat actors are changing every day, every minute of every day. There's a new threat out there, or there's a new method. Things are always changing. So you can't just train somebody once and think they know stuff, because things are going to change. We've got continuous training. We typically do it on a quarterly schedule. We do have some of our clients that say, hey, we'd like to do monthly. Can you accommodate that?
Right.
Absolutely, we can. We can flip on monthly based training if that's what
Exactly.
somebody wants. And again, it's not the same course. We're always updating our content. And much of our content is geared, it's all based off of NIST, but if you're a healthcare, many of the phishing emails are going to be healthcare related type emails to try to, yeah, exactly.
It's so
Or if it's
smart.
financial customers, different things like that, they're going to get more PCI type emails,
Exactly.
PCI compliance, different things like that. So we really gear that training to that customer specific industry.
It's
And again, we're always refreshing our content because you have
it's so
to,
cool.
because
It's
threat actors are changing.
so cool. And actually, this is a sidebar, but when you're onboarding a new employee, quite often they'll post stuff to LinkedIn. Hey, I've taken a new position. Those guys, the cyber criminals, they take that as an invite to try and hack that new person. And so it's even more important to make sure that person's aware when they're onboarded. That's why I said HR earlier, just to be mindful of your company's policies and your procedures and whatnot. And now that you're a new person, and you should be excited to join a new position and all that stuff and tell people, but you also have to be mindful that you're telling the criminals too. So be prepared for that kind of activity.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. And I'm not afraid to admit this. That got me one time. And what I'm talking about is, you're right.
absolutely.
These bad threat actors watch LinkedIn, and they've studied the organization that you've gone to work for. And sometimes they've got some really deep information, because I can remember when I started at DataStream Cyber Insurance a couple of years ago, I had been there all of a week and a half, maybe. And it was a smishing. It was a text message that was from supposedly the CEO of DataStream, who is the guy that hired me. It's, hey, this is Andy. I need you to do me a favor. We're going to give some gift cards to our top 5 customers. Could you run out and get them $250 each? And he even explained, he goes, this is not coming from my phone. This is coming from my wife's phone. And the text message said his wife's name, which I'm not going to say here, but said his wife's name. So this is from Mary's phone. And I was like, okay, so this is very believable. He's just sending me I'm driving in the car. Can you go do this? So the only way I got out of that was I went to the store. I had the cards in my hand and I was like, I wonder if he wants Amex, Visa, or MasterCard. So I called him and I was like, hey, Andy, I'm here to get these gift cards that you wanted. Do you have a preference on Amex?
Oh
and
my
he's like,
God.
What gift cards? And I was like, the ones I got you texting me from Mary's phone. He goes, I haven't texted. He goes, oh my gosh. He goes, you're getting hit by the LinkedIn thing. He said, because you just posted you came to work for us. And he said, Larry, and so Stuart, I was like, there goes that job. I'm 10 days into the job and I'm supposed to be working for a cyber insurance company. And here I am falling for one of these attempts. And my point is, it can happen to any of us.
Anybody,
and that's
100%.
How good some of these guys are getting.
No, it's very good. I too have a confession. My mother, which I thought her home sent from a healthcare worker, I'll make it real quick. And I'm like, oh, healthcare work, my mom, what's wrong with her? Click. So I'm like, they're very good at it. They tug right at the strings. You've started a job. They know about your mom in a home, blah, blah, blah. It's really important. And you mentioned insurance. I know that we have about 6 minutes left, but I don't want to leave the conversation without insurance discussion, because I know, Larry, you have some specific insights into that. And maybe you could just help everyone listening. What's important about having this awareness training to make sure that if you do have a claim, unfortunately, that you're covered, kind of thing, with your insurance?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Cyber insurance, this is my guess. I hope nobody holds me to this, but I think probably in the next 5 to 7, 8 years, I think cyber insurance is probably going to become mandatory for every business out there.
I would agree. And
Yeah,
one of our
because
actual cohorts in the Pitch It program he's one of the top finalists because he's
yep,
in the insurance. So it's good on them. That's Doug with CPod Cyber. Shout out to
yeah,
him.
absolutely. Absolutely. He's a great guy. Cyber insurance, I can remember when, I first started with DataStream, the conversation changed real quick. It only took about 6 to 8 months of just educating MSPs, but they looked at cyber insurance as the enemy. And I said, no, you need to look at cyber insurance as your ally because cyber insurance is going to actually help make it easier for you to sell certain technologies into your customer because it's going to be required by the cyber carriers. To get a good policy, there's things you have to have. Otherwise, you're going to be probably not getting such a good cyber insurance policy.
Right.
Your limits may be much smaller, your premium might be much higher, but cyber insurance is not going away. MSPs definitely need to embrace it, and they need to. Cyber insurance is not your typical insurance product that Aunt Mary or Uncle John, we've all got somebody in our family that has probably sold life insurance and car insurance, home insurance. They're good at that stuff, but the average insurance agent out there doesn't
No,
understand cybersecurity. They don't
right.
understand the technology
It's very
behind it. So
complex.
that's where I always tell MSPs, I use the old medical analogy. We've all got a general practitioner, but if all of a sudden you find out you've got to have quadruple bypass surgery, are you going to your GP and say, hey, will you operate on me and fix my heart? No, you're going to go to a specialist.
Yeah,
You're going to go to that
exactly.
cardiac specialist because that's what they specialize in. So that's the same thing
Correct.
with cyber insurance. And I think your platform, our platform, I mean, we're definitely one of the important things that an MSP needs to put in place for their customers in order for their customers to get good cyber insurance. Security
Exactly.
awareness training is one of those mandatory things that they need to
Mandatory.
have. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it has to be in your strategy. If you don't have that box checked, it's a real rude awakening when they say, no, your claim's denied. It's what? Because you didn't conform to those pieces.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think that's really important. I don't know, Delta, if we're lined up here. We're coming up on the 45-minute mark. Key takeaways, really, it's for me, from a strategic point of view, that's what they're after you for as an advisor, to bring these things forward. I know sometimes people are
Mhm.
like, oh geez, I don't want to have to talk about this kind of stuff. We all have to go to the dentist and get the odd root canal or whatnot. But what I'm getting at there is that this is a mandatory thing that you have to bring forward in your strategies. You can't have a blind spot to these things. I don't know. Your turn to recap there, Larry. Let me know what you think about some of the key takeaways.
Yeah, no, to me, the key takeaway is all of what we're talking about here is helping the MSP become that trusted advisor. And if you're
Right.
that trusted advisor for your clients, it's going to make your life hopefully a lot easier, especially when it comes to putting these platforms like GetInSync and INFIMA and others in place for your customers because they just don't think you're trying to sell them another thing. They now understand that you are helping keep their business protected. You are helping keep their business up and running.
Yeah, I couldn't said it better. And this is where, like, partnering, obviously, I grabbed this from your website, threw it up here. I can testify it's really easy to partner with you guys. And how much does it cost, Larry?
Nope, that's one of the beautiful things with us is we have no contracts, we have no minimums.
Exactly.
We do have entry level pricing, but if you want to sign a contract, obviously you can get discounted pricing, different things like that,
Yeah,
but we don't force anybody into any type of contract. If
that's
you just want
beautiful.
to sign up and go, absolutely, we can do
Yeah,
that. We've actually just revamped our pricing policy on some of this stuff, and we're going to be announcing it at IT Nation Connect.
cool.
So
I'll look forward to
yeah, we've
that.
got some neat stuff going. We got some
Uh,
really neat stuff going on coming
yeah.
out over the next few months.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I'm looking forward to IT Nation and also to do the shameless plug as well. You can always jump on the website and get a free trial, of course, of GetInSync, and always reach out to Delta there or myself to book a discovery call. We can take you through how our vCIO platform will help you. It's really about making those making decisions, helping you make sense of your business's strategy and how IT can enable that. So really, as a wind up, next steps, you can grab this QR code, and that'll take you to a forum. We can certainly put you in contact with Larry and whatnot too. So feel free to do that. Any other parting thoughts there, Larry, before we say goodbye and end on time? Look at that. It's coming up.
Sir, say, yeah, you may not want me to have any parting thoughts because we won't end on time. Because as you can tell, I tend to run on and on. So I'm going to stay quiet at this point. If anybody wants to partner with us, yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn or go to INFIMA.com. So that's INFIMA Security or SEC.com. And we've got everything out there, and you can book a demo with our fantastic VP of Sales, Zach Carter. He does a fantastic job. Hopefully you guys can testify to that because you've gone through it with him. So now I'll just be quiet. Sorry, Delta.
I'm glad you could join. I know you joined by your phone, but you're good at pivoting. We'll definitely see you at IT Nation. And for those that are listening and going to IT Nation, be sure to drop by our booth. I'm in Pitch Alley. I think, Larry, you probably in the full show, right?
We're on the main floor, booth 213.
213. I think, Delta, we're 15 on Pitchett Lane or something like that.
Pitchett Alley, yeah, that's right.
Pitchett Alley. My apologies. Yeah. We'll see you guys. Have a good day, and thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Delta. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks.
Perfect. See you.
All right. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.